Hello all, and welcome to Supernova Theories and Videos. Today I am going to be diving into what I believe would have made the most dangerous Horcrux, a weapon that could have created an army for Voldemort, one that he never even considered, from the one founder whose relic he was unable to take to make a Horcrux out of. And this one could have been hidden in plain sight too. And I'm not referring to the Sword of Gryffindor either, which there is some question on whether or not the sword could even take in part of someone's soul. I guess you could argue that that piece of soul could make it stronger, but at the same time, a split soul is very weak, so I lean towards that you could not make a Horcrux out of the Sword of Gryffindor. Either way, though, I buy into the theory that Voldemort had the Sword of Gryffindor and intended to make it his final Horcrux with Harry's death when he was a baby. Shout out to the Super Carlin brothers, by the way, for that one. If you somehow stumbled upon me and have never watched them, go check them out. They're like me if I was good at this.
You stink, loser!
So if I'm not referring to the sword, a weapon capable of killing a basilisk and stealing the power of its venom, then what am I referring to that could be even more dangerous? I mean, there are some pretty dangerous magical beasts you can make a Horcrux with. I mean, we see Voldemort do this with Nagini. I mean, imagine if instead it was with like a dragon or a chimera or blast-handed Scrooge. That would be very dangerous, but Dumbledore says it best when he says that it's very dangerous to trust your soul with something that can walk away with it. So I don't think it would be a magical beast that would be this most dangerous Horcrux, even if it would be potentially very catastrophic if you were to have extra control over a particularly dangerous beast. I guess a wand could also be a very deadly one to use too, particularly the Elder Wand, because then the wand's allegiance would always be to you, because a part of your own soul is a part of the wand. Yeah, maybe that wouldn't be the most durable choice, though. Then there are also a few where there's question of whether or not you could even turn it into a Horcrux. Like, I imagine it would be difficult to turn Hogwarts into a Horcrux because of the magic of the castle, but if you were able to, I imagine it would be a very effective Horcrux and even harder to destroy. I kind of imagine it being like the secret mission in Hogwarts Legacy, where you're going through the haunted house and fighting all those mannequins. But again, would the magic of the castle even allow for it? I gotta imagine that Hogwarts would fight against that. I mean, if it fights against Umbridge trying to be the head mistress, I gotta imagine it's not going to be very happy with Tom Riddle trying to make it Horcrux. Or there's always the answer of just turning some random rock into a Horcrux, throw it into the bottom of the ocean, and nobody will ever find it. But it wouldn't be impossible to find, though, because with things like gillyweed or creatures like merpeople, I gotta imagine that somebody would be able to get to the bottom of the ocean, and I can't imagine there being a lot of magic down there, and dark magic in particular leaves a trace, so it's almost kind of like once you get down there, it's like radar for a wizard, like Dumbledore or somebody, and then all of a sudden your Horcrux is getting destroyed, but it would be very difficult to find, I'll give you that, but it's also more defensive in nature still. I'm talking about a Horcrux that would be more offensive, and even with all of the death that Voldemort is personally responsible for, I think there is a Horcrux out there that could still even be deadlier than that. And just a quick little tangent, because this is the wrong fandom, but I think that's the craziest part about the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. It basically acts as Sauron's Horcrux, but everybody is so tempted by the power it could potentially hold that nobody can seem to destroy it. And honestly, I don't think it could consciously be destroyed, even. It really isn't an equivalent in Harry Potter, though I guess the Elder Wand is as close as it gets. Okay, yeah, that was definitely conscious there. And honestly, on that second throw, felt a little personal. Harry, you need to talk, bud. Suppose we could try to look at it from a different angle, too. Instead of looking at more of a traditional weapon, we could look at knowledge. That's kind of the point of Order of the Phoenix. Everybody thinks it's a secret weapon, but it's just the prophecy. Let's imagine for a second, though, that Dumbledore was not the one who was told that prophecy, and the years spent with him and Voldemort going after it to learn of the information. Voldemort gets to it first in this scenario. Let's say he turns the prophecy into a Horcrux, and then Dumbledore gets his hand on it, but Voldemort's soul is influencing the information so that he's telling Dumbledore that because you meddled, Voldemort will win, but that still requires Dumbledore's reaction to it to be an effective Horcrux. And what I have in mind is much more widespread, and I would even say unforgivable. So the answer is the Sorting Hat. Yeah, this patchy little thing right here. Get that hidden in plain sight joke earlier? Yeah, I think it's a little on the nose too, but anyway. When Voldemort takes over in Deathly Hallows, he makes it compulsory for everybody to send their children to Hogwarts. So every witch and wizard from pureblood or half-blood families will have to go to Hogwarts and be sorted with the Sorting Hat here. So even though it's just for a moment, everybody's going to be wearing this hat. But that's all that would be needed, because then he can almost imperious them into having to be loyal to him and having a strong desire to use dark magic. So if he's able to make this powerful dark army that is incapable of defying him, then why doesn't he use the Sorting Hat? I mean, he would never have to worry about a resistance from his own home country at the very least. And for one, it's in Dumbledore's office, and if there's one person who Voldemort doesn't want to know about his Horcruxes, it's Dumbledore. And say what you will about Dumbledore, he certainly would, but I think he would notice if all of his students started getting an affinity towards dark magic, or if the Sorting Hat went missing, does anybody really think he would let them use it for the sorting just for tradition's sake? He'd probably just take one look at it, probably would go something like, oh, Tom, this was so crude of you. You really think I was going to use this hat after you used it? Wait a second, is this thing a Horcrux? Even if that was the reason, though, the Sorting Hat is clearly not in his plans. With Dumbledore dead and Hogwarts in his control, he never goes after it. I mean, if he did, Snape would probably give him a fake, like with the Sword of Gryffindor, but even at the Battle of Hogwarts, when the Sorting Hat is in Voldemort's hands and he's seemingly won, this is what he says. "There will be no more sorting at Hogwarts School," said Voldemort. "There will be no more houses. The emblem, shield, and colors of my noble ancestor Salazar Slytherin will suffice for everyone. Won't they, Neville Longbottom?" Then he just sets the hat on fire. I mean, I guess we don't know what the process is for making a Horcrux, and he does plan to kill Neville here, but none of the other deaths that he makes as Horcruxes involve fire. Maybe the diary and the basilisk, if you know, you know. Anyway, though, the Sorting Hat clearly isn't part of Voldemort's plans here, though, even though it would make it so much easier for him to achieve his goals. And unlike the Sword of Gryffindor or Hogwarts Castle, I think it's pretty obvious that the hat could be made into a Horcrux and would have these powers, because that's very similar to the powers that Godric Gryffindor himself gives the Sorting Hat. And honestly, if there's one Horcrux that could create the most damage, I think this is it, because he's basically putting the Imperius Curse on the entire wizarding world. Wish I could come up with a reason why Voldemort wouldn't want to make the Sorting Hat a Horcrux, but honestly, I can't. The most I can think of is that Voldemort doesn't value it and doesn't take the time to comprehend its potential, because, like house elves and children's tales, like love, loyalty, and innocence, Voldemort truly knows and understands nothing. Nothing. And this is a power that he would covet that is beyond his own understanding of the world, and that is why he will always lose.
Always.
Okay, so this is something I've always wondered, because the hat itself is in the headmaster's office, but it's always the deputy headmaster, headmistress at the time, that actually does the sorting ceremony. And I started to pull on this thread to see if, maybe Dumbledore thought that Voldemort would go after the hat to, you know, I don't think he would have thought it was a Horcrux, but for some sort of purpose like this, Didn't really work out that way though, but just the potential of this was too intriguing for me not to go in depth on this. It's kind of like how Slughorn says the most dangerous potion in his classroom that day is a love potion, or it's kind of why the Imperious Curse is in that group of unforgivable curses when the other two are to torture and to kill. It seems a little less, but that's just how it seems on the surface. It's so much deadlier, just like the Sorting Hat could potentially be on its own. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of this down below in the comments. Is the Sorting Hat the most dangerous potential Horcrux, or maybe you can think of something that would be even worse for the wizarding world? Maybe you think one of the ones I listed before would be more deadly, and you think I'm underestimating it for some reason, but this is all I got for you guys today, so drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want more like this, and I'll see you next time on STV.